We did make it a Q&A open forum, but just to really warm up the stage and break some ice, why don't you take a couple of minutes each, or maybe less, depending, maybe a minute or so, and tell us what do you value the most in your teammates, in your potential hires, in somebody who you happen to accidentally work with on a day-to-day life in the professional environment. So those are, what are those golden nuggets you're looking for?
I'll start. So we actually have a few new hires on the team, and I'll say the ones that stand out are the ones that are very curious, but also not afraid to get their hands dirty and start on a project, not afraid to make mistakes, and learn from the mistakes and move forward. Ask for feedback. That's generally just a very positive, curious attitude and ready to work and not afraid.
Cool. So I'll say communication, collaboration. You work on big, hard problems. They are problems that like no one person can put the whole thing in their head, like ever, right? And so how do you get, you know, like a few hundred people working on a hard problem together? And a big part of that is really solid communication skills. Not everyone's gonna be in the same place, have the same background, have the same anything, but you know, collectively we're all smarter than any single one of us. So yeah, that's the thing. Like when people show up and can really like helpfully communicate, and like we can figure out when we're breaking down in communication, that's what makes big teams work well.
Yeah, I'd say that there are definitely times when someone asks me a question and I'll start to explain what I think the answer is, and I can see that I'm not hitting any of the marks. Nothing is resonating at all, either because I have a flawed understanding, or I'm just not explaining it right, or they don't get it, and somebody will just say, okay, I got it, and I know they don't got it. And I value somebody because here's the part I don't understand, and can clearly articulate that, or maybe say I don't understand, and that's okay, but I'm going to go back and research this and this and this, or what can I do to follow up on it? Because you can't be afraid to say I don't get it in anything.
So echoing them and the things that they're looking for, I think Korean and I are pretty new, so I think we are the ones looking at our team going, who can we go to, you know, and ask those questions. And like, I know something that I looked for in my team was like, how willing were they to talk to me? You know, like I'm like this new person, I'm trying to learn, and I'm doing all these things that they're like looking for. How do I also look for like the right mentors? And that's a huge thing too, right? Looking for, you know, that person who may not be in your field, but is like close enough to your field where they can teach you about like how you should conduct business in your business, or like maybe like a technical mentor, so that like you can go and you can talk about like just ideas that you have. IBM is super big on patents, and we have patent teams and stuff like that where like senior, you know, these big names, fellows and DEs and, you know, senior developers will actually take you under their wing and show you their patent process. And like those things you kind of have to like go and get yourselves. You can't just like sit around and hope that someone picks you. So.
Echoing every single one. And I think as the least technical person up here, as someone who's coming in with like very little technical background, who can I go to, as Kelly said, who's willing to kind of sit with me for a little bit and help me problem solve, but also acknowledging that like these folks are also really, you know, busy, and they have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of time. So how can I expedite that process? And even going in with my initial assumptions, like, hey, this is what I think. Like, can you help me kind of understand where I'm wrong? And I definitely go to Jeff with questions. He's actually my technical mentor, ironically enough. So I think that's something that has really helped me really on board to the technology that I'm working on.
Sean, what was your background before you started dancing the field?
Sure, yeah. So what's my background? So funny enough, like when I graduated college 20 years ago, I actually studied physics as an undergraduate, and I didn't do any of that ever since. I've been working mostly in software, cloud software. I did a ton of open source stuff at IBM. One of the nice things about big entities like IBM is there's a lot of horizontal movement potential, so that I was in a different group that was doing a lot of cloud developer advocacy work, and then the opportunity for helping enhance the cloud pieces of the quantum systems popped up, and I said, hey, that sort of fits. Also, I get to dive back into 2 semesters of quantum mechanics that like are rusty somewhere in the back of my brain, and slowly coming to the forefront. But yeah, I've been through a whole bunch of things in the way to get there.
All right, one question for all of you guys. Looking back at your college years, what are some of the things that you're glad that you did in college that is helping you now in your career, and what are the things that you regret not doing back in college that would help you or will expedite your progress at your career? So I guess
Maybe they have
I
the
can-
most recent memory.
I
pretty
can
fresh.
start.
Let's go back.
I can start. I think I'm really glad that I was able to have a little bit of background in psychology, because that served me well in understanding what my clients are saying and what aren't they saying, based on the tone that they use, based on the word choices that they use, based on like how do I even like work with my team, and if I pop my head into their office, like, is this a good time, or is there like a huge fire going on and I should come back later? So I'm really thankful for that, because that served me really well. I wish I had taken more technical or engineering classes. If I had known I would end up in this field. So I regret not doing that, but just self-learning, just teaching myself, you know, after work, I think has worked. Yeah.
Okay. What I am happy that I did in college was get through college. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, you know, what you do now doesn't seem like it fits into any picture at all, really, but you kind of just have to truck through it and kind of, you know, obtain and kind of gravitate towards the things that you actually like doing, because once you graduate and you actually go and you're looking for a career, this is what you're going to be doing for a very long time. Something that I wish I had done when I was in school was did more outreach programs where like I participated more in like, you know, going and listening to IBM Talk, or like going and listening to any other major companies, because I think every company comes with a different and unique kind of environment, and your environment is really important to grow in and blossom in and grow your career in. So, yeah.
So senior year, I took a course it was actually our capping course in software development. And it was less about actually coding, but more about how to plan a project. It wasn't quite down at like the project management level, but it was, here's a big project, it's bigger than one person can do, you have to work as a team. And because we're a bunch of like techno nerds, our first thing was, okay, let's start coding this thing. And we realized that like, oh, we were developing a monster that would never work, our pieces would never fit together. And we had to go back to the drawing board and actually write out a bunch of pseudocode and do block diagrams and UML type stuff. And I realized at that point, later on in my college, you know, time, how important that step was, that it come first. And you know, you don't put the cart in front of the horse. You need to do the planning with pseudocode and block diagrams and all that stuff before you start building any sort of assets. Because once you start building assets, you get attached to them. And you say, well, I spent a week building this, we have to use it. Even if it's entirely wrong. So you know, I'm glad that I got to take that. I wish that I had considered it earlier.
Nice. So I came into this space actually kind of a non-traditional path at the time. I studied physics as an undergraduate. By the time I graduated, I'd only taken maybe 3 computer science courses, I think, at the end. What did happen, I was in college from 94 to 98 at Wesleyan University. In 95, we got the first web browser. That was fascinating to me. That's why I took this trajectory. I was like, this web thing is really interesting and really cool. So I taught myself to code in Perl, like outside of any formal classes to begin with. And the reason I was able to do that is there was a group, the StudentNet group, that basically took all the abandoned servers from the IT department and then like jerry-rigged them together in a way that they would actually like work, and we ran the first web server on campus. That whole experience of like finding like the experiences in your environment that were not necessarily like through the classroom but through these other opportunities is huge, right? Because going forward, right, that's kind of what life is about. Like you're gonna have to go explore and find like, oh, that's interesting over there. You know, no one necessarily like pointed you the way, and do that. And self-learning, right, is huge because the world is changing all the time. There's always new stuff to learn. Yeah, honestly, the thing that I to this day, like, I should have taken a real statistics course. Like, it's just like, I keep back-ending into this problem, being like, oh, yeah, okay, I kind of like barely understand
Not
this.
too late.
I know, it's not too late, it's not too late.
We offered the burden.
Yeah.
You said it was an easy drive.
Yeah.
Okay, so with me, I sort of squeezed 120 credits to get my bachelor's degree in 3 years. I wish I had taken that extra year to take additional courses in humanities and in design that would round out, you know, my skills, I think. I don't know if, you know, design thinking was a thing back then. I actually am a pretty firm believer of that, and I think it's not just applicable in designing products, but it's applicable, you can apply some of the concepts as you're working with other people, right? It's all about understanding their point of view, understanding their context, so that, you know, and there's a really good quote, it's like, when you're trying to sell your ideas or talk to people about your ideas, you know, their cup is already full. You can't just pour your ideas in. You first have to understand what's in their cup. And then you can present your ideas in the context, in their context, and they will absorb it better. So I think, so design thinking, I think will teach some of that. I'm starting to learn that now, but I wish I had taken more of that back in college, and then also some of the humanities stuff, psychology, like some of the other things to kind of round out, you know, like how I work with people, like working in a group setting a little bit more. But yeah, I'm glad for the computer science background though. So.
I'm the guy who's picked up the mantle here, I guess, on mainframe computing. I spent the first half of my career on IBM mainframes, although I never worked for IBM, so I'm a, you know, for me a bit is a 0 or 1. That's all I understand. But one of the things that we did here, we decided that we were going to sort of throw a grassroots approach, give our students the opportunity to get exposed to the mainframe and find that subset that really eats this stuff up and loves it. And we've done really well on our side as far as being able to encourage students. We do master the mainframe. I do that as part of a course called Computer Organization and Assembly Language. And I make everybody do part 2 of MTM for 15% of their grade. And they give them the option to do part 3. I also teach assembly language, and most of them are not thrilled with me, but we do it anyway.
You have to.
Because I think it differentiates students who are coders and have no idea what's going on after they write a line of code, from people who understand that that one line that they wrote in C++ exploded into all of these, and that all of those labels and variables disappeared and everything became base addressing and all that sort of stuff. And then they understand what a computer is all about. I've taken them on trips to the Enterprise Computing Conference up at Marist, where we've actually presented. We've done work here on the mainframe, and I've taken them to different conferences. We went to a VM workshop, and so I'm providing as much exposure as I can. And on the student side, we've done really well. When we go up to IBM, we go every semester, and the first thing I ask the relative new hires, is usually like anywhere from 5 to 7, is how much mainframe experience have you had before you got the job? And so far, I'm at about 37 or so, and nobody ever had any mainframe experience. And then I turn to my students and say, you are light years ahead of these people who got hired with a hell of a lot less than you have. But we've had a very difficult time selling this to the corporate world. We got our first breakthrough. We have one student who's got an internship now offered to him for next spring at Prudential. Now, Prudential seems to have gotten the idea, and they're willing to take people, at least on an intern basis, with 2 years, with an expectation that they'll go on and do the 4 years. But we just have not been able to really crack the area where you guys are the exception to the gray hair that's out there, right, in the mainframe world. And all we hear is that the companies are really desperate to have newer people come into the system, yet we can't seem to get past the HR areas and get to the managers and get to expose our students. They're not experts by any means, but they've got a heck of a lot more than the average person walking in the door, and the learning curve to get them up to be fully functional is much, much shorter than if they just came in the door with kind of nothing. So I was wondering if any of you have any ideas about how, like, a company like IBM could get attracted to the students that we have here. Because I've got plenty of interest here, but I'm having a hard time getting companies to buy in for us.
What I've seen, which is an unfortunate thing, is when a company, particularly the smaller companies and state government, are looking to, they say they have X number of mainframe roles available. That means they have X number of people who are retirement eligible, and they basically say, these amount of people do the following things. We need to hire people that do these specific things. And the idea that they just need to hire bright people who want to work and they can spend 2 years training them, they haven't come around to accept that yet. There is a fair amount of on-the-job training when it comes to mainframe. It's not something, you know, like a Raspberry Pi where you can just practice on it at home. So where we are finding success is where the companies are more open to that period of on-the-job training, where they're not backfilling somebody, where they are shadowing, where there is like an ecosystem. So there's a company, you know, Black Knight down in, they do financial services down in Florida, and they have like a pipeline. You come in as a COBOL cadet doing COBOL, which nobody wants to spend a lifetime doing, but as you learn COBOL, you find out that your code connects to this and this and this, and there is a documented pipeline for how you progress down there through project manager, through architect, through, you know, field tech, all that kind of stuff. Working it as a pipeline like that has greater success. Doing it on a spot-by-spot basis, where I see a lot of the postings, it doesn't work, and we're trying to beat them over the head when they come back to us and say, we can't find people to work here. Like, you're looking in a corner of a room when there's a whole bunch of people. You know, you just have to have some faith.
Yeah, IBM has, wasn't there, it used to be like a Z-Job site? Where Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do some digging and see if that's around where Z clients post job postings on that site for.
I thought that was mostly for people like 5 years experience or something like that.
It could be, but I think that there may be entry-level positions as well. And then we have these like job fairs, or hiring events, where, at least from a tech sales perspective, you know, we have, I'll say for the last 2 years, we've hired like 15 straight out of college students. And then we sent them to a year worth of training sponsored by us, and part of it is getting a Marist mainframe certificate.
Yep.
And then we put them out in the field to work directly with mainframe and non-mainframe clients to evangelize the value of Z. So I'm not, you know, I can get you some of that information about like these job fairs for the summit. It's called the Summit Program. It's really for the tech sales job role at IBM. So it's mainframe and non-mainframe tech sales roles. Yeah.
I think what Ellen is getting to also is that we've had conversations with IBM folks. You know, some of the tech folks have been here at Bergen, and they said, we need your people. You know, if they could just have this course, this course, and this course, it might be only, you know, a couple, 4 courses more than what we already are doing. Get them these courses, we have places for them. But then we hit the human resources folks at IBM, and the human resources people say, they gotta have that 4-year degree. I think where the win-win might be on something like this would be to work with IBM to say, hey, listen, if we got 2-year folks who have the technical chops to actually work at IBM, could IBM, create some internships that would help them also advance that 4-year degree, provide, tuition reimbursement, stuff like that. That's something you don't do, okay? It's something, it would provide a pathway for our students, and it would be a, I would think a win-win situation.
Yeah, I know we've hired folks out of the P-TECH program. Have you heard of the P-TECH program? It's like a 6-year program that will get the student a high school degree and then basically like an associate degree.
Yeah, a variation of that could involve 2-year
community college.
Right.
It's similar, right? Yeah.
Right.
So, so I know like my group has hired a few P-TECH students. So they are out there. I think it's a matter of, I think, navigating all the different hiring channels through IBM. But the ones that I'm aware of, I'm happy to share with you.
Thank you.
I guess for the time's sake and also to wrap up this session, if each of you could provide us with 30, 40 seconds worth of your life hacks, so to speak, for the work and life balance. IBM must be a very demanding place to be at, and it requires a lot of learning on your own, as we just heard. So what are some strategies that you use to professionally advance yet to have a life?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I'll let you know later. No. So I have 2 kids. They're fairly young, 8 and 4-year-olds. My husband also works at IBM full-time. So it's a juggle. We just have to kind of work it out among ourselves. Like I'm here today. I also stayed in the area yesterday, so have to work it out with my husband. And then vice versa, because he travels sometimes as well. So it is definitely a challenge. I would say, with mobile, like you're almost always on and always connected, and I have to just tell myself not to stop looking at my phone, stop looking at Slack, right? Put that away, turn off notifications. Don't have your computers in the bedroom, like in the dining room, just walk away. I'm still working on that because it's hard to do, but and take time off for yourself, like to mentally recharge. That's something that you have to schedule into your schedule sometimes.
So there's a piece of advice I got in college from a friend that's stuck with me forever, which we were sitting down, he was trying to develop something on this IRIX workstation, which is an old school Unix environment, and he was doing this thing, and I was asking him questions, and he said, never go off and work on a project in which you're not learning something, because that's how you stay fresh. You always make sure that there's something new that you're learning along the way, and so that definitely shaped the way I thought about a lot of where I moved over time. And I think at the end of the day too, so I have a daughter who's 5 years old now, and a bunch of it's just time boxing. It's just all right, this is these are the hours I'm giving to work, and then I have other priorities too, and you have to keep that in mind. Because the reality is your 60th hour of a week doing work is a useless hour. You're just garbage at that point. You are making mistakes, you are making
yeah.
You are just making mistakes. You're actually making more work for yourself down the road because you're doing it badly. So there is value of saying
that's it.
Here's my good hours. Yeah. I'm going to put this number of hours in, and then that means I'm going to keep the quality up.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow up on that. I definitely have that happen where there's a Saturday or a Sunday where I've been trying to finish a project, and for one reason or another I had to stop, and I'm okay, I'm going to come into work on Monday, which is tomorrow, and then you come in and you sit at your desk and you're I have to throw all this out because I was not in the right frame of mind when I was doing all this. I lost a weekend to gain nothing. That's the worst feeling ever. So time management is such an important thing just to maintain quality and sanity. And you have to learn how to say no to things.
Yeah.
Something that, I see a lot of people say, oh, my calendar is full. and they're proud of it. And it's like, well, your calendar is full, and you're sitting in meetings that you're telling me are useless. Say no to some useless meetings, and block off time for yourself where you say, I'm going to research this topic. Otherwise, you're only learning by osmosis, and that's, you know, you can only get so far with that. You really need to apply yourself in some areas, and sometimes you just need to block off an hour to say, leave me alone. It's Monday, I know by Thursday something will come up that I have to work on, and I don't want every half hour of my calendar owed to somebody else, right? The other important thing, this is a hack that somebody told me my literal first day of work, is, you know, I said I couldn't picture myself being at a company, let alone IBM, for 18 years, doing the same thing, and I haven't. I've changed roles every 2 to 3 years. Sometimes it's a big change, sometimes it's a little change. But somebody told me, if you want to change jobs, just start going to that group's meetings. Just start showing up and ask questions. Eventually they'll start assigning you work, and then eventually they'll be like, yeah, we can actually hire somebody. Jeff, do you work here? No. Do you want to? Yeah. Okay, cool. We'll put you in for that. And I've done that like twice now. You know, benefits of a big company is you can find out where your stuff connects to and investigate that. And you know, at the end, you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to go back to my desk and work on the other thing now. We've got to find out a whole lot about quantum today. If I worked in a company that only did mainframe, that wouldn't have happened.
Okay, my answers are always so non-traditional. I think my biggest thing was my experience. Before I even started my job, I had an internship at a super small company, and that I was like not happy with at all. I thought I would be happy at a smaller company because you get, you know, maybe more privileges, maybe more like ideas, maybe you're closer to your CEO. And I found out that I do not want to be close to my CEO at all. And so, not really a life hack, but just something good to do. Get an internship. Go and figure out what type of environment you like to work in. My second one includes time management, but what I kind of failed to realize was that I work in like 8 to 5, maybe 6, maybe sometimes 7 o'clock job now. And so I really need to find like the silver lining in my days. So, you know, I was talking to Karina this morning and I was like, oh my God, it's so early. We're driving for like an hour and a half. I just need coffee. And so like me just getting that coffee just put me in the right mood to get through the rest of my day. So, you know, just being able to, you know, you have a long day, you know, classes are hard too. I'm sure finals are coming around. It's just like finding that little light of like, yes, I have this now, I can move forward. Or even like at the end of the night and you just want to like, I don't know, I'm on that Diablo 3 kick right now because Diablo 4 came out, or like the trailers are coming out. And so like at the end of my night, I'm just like, I just want to get home, grind out my witch doctor. That's all I want to do. And so like that is my silver lining right now. And so I just, yeah, experience and find your like little thing that makes you happy every day.
Echoing everything. I'm really bad at saying no, which I think has been me in the butt many times over the course of my 2-year career here.
This is why you're here.
Which is why I'm here. I didn't say no to this.
Good, Jim is not here, so
I love Jim.
Yes, but this was great. And I think this kind of like is a nice breakaway from the day to kind of realize this is where I work, and I work with all of these people here, and it's a great place to be. I think my biggest piece of advice is when you find yourself just like struggling to get through the work, that means you just got to put it down and walk away for
Sometimes you walk away, you come back, you're like,
yeah,
ding, right?
Or like you walk away and you're doing dishes and you're like,
yeah.
oh my God,
yeah,
I figured it out. Where's my computer?
I've definitely like gotten up in the middle and then I'm like, I got it.
Siri, take a note.
Yeah. Write that down.
Yeah,
Walking
absolutely.
away.
I feel like those moments, like, just, you know, go take a walk. Sometimes I'll like leave for 15 minutes, take a walk around the campus, and just come back a little bit more refreshed. And say no, prioritize yourself. I'm bad about taking vacation too. So that's me learning along the way. But prioritizing yourself is really important as well. So block it out. I block my calendar off. You just gotta do it.
Yeah.
Just
So
gotta
there's
do
a
it.
good person to follow on LinkedIn, Adam Grant. He wrote a couple books. He's like an organizational psychologist, but he offers some really good advice, and they're short. It's just like 1 sentence or 2 sentence advice on LinkedIn. Adam Grant.
Well, I think they earn a really warm round of applause, so thank you very much.